President Trump gets impeached again as DC goes into fortress mode ahead of the inauguration. A third vaccine nears approval, and Girl Scout cookies without leaving your couch. Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Thursday, January 14th. I am Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Hey, Carlo. Good morning.
Good morning, Wags. Before we get started, I hate to do this. I know this is annoying, but do you remember a couple of weeks ago when I was complaining about not getting braces during the pandemic?
Yes. Yes,
So
I do.
a bunch of people wrote in and they told me I should get the Invisalign. So I did it. I went to the freaking orthodontist yesterday. I don't know why I did this. And I got this thing on my bottom teeth and it is killing me. So I'm begging you people who have gotten this to write in and tell me if I have to go through this torture for the next 6 months or if it's going to get better, because my mouth is so sore and it's just like I want to like rip my face off.
Wow, Carl, I don't even know what to say because this is all this is the first I'm hearing of it, but I love that you listen to our listeners
Yeah.
and you took action and you're doing something about it. And at this pace, I feel like we're going to be, working from home for a while. So you've got time
Yeah.
to fix that bottom layer of your teeth.
Please just tell me it gets better.
Okay, let's get to some news. As usual, there's a lot of it. President Trump has made history as the first American president to be impeached twice after the House charged him with inciting a violent insurrection, the most serious charge ever lodged against a sitting president. With battalions of troops stationed in the halls of Congress, the vote was 232 to 197. So this time around, 10 House Republicans broke with the president. It was the most bipartisan impeachment in history. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, so that's over in the Senate, said that he was not planning to bring the Senate back early from recess for a trial. So that means the earliest the Senate could potentially start a trial would be January 19th, which means the president will most certainly serve out his term. Hours after the vote and under extreme pressure from his remaining advisors, the president did release a recorded video from the Oval Office urging his supporters to stand down from further violence.
When I watched that video last night, it just was very clear that he was speaking to one person, and that person being Mitch McConnell. I think basically begging him not to bring the Senate back to convict. Although he also, he didn't really show contrition or any of that stuff, but it does make clear, and Maggie Haberman at the Times has been reporting this much, that it appears to have sunk in with President Trump that he faces serious legal exposure from what happened last week once he leaves office. As for McConnell, I think the timing just happens to be working in his favor by punting this. He's basically telling Chuck Schumer, who's the new majority leader, Chucky, this is your problem now, man. And I think, nobody seems to really know if you can put an ex-president on trial in the Senate. I was researching this yesterday. It seems like the conventional wisdom suggests that you can do it. The question is, do Biden and Schumer have any appetite for spending time on this when Trump's no longer in the White House? It's not insignificant that 10 Republicans voted for impeachment, but way more significant that so many voted against, which I think suggests that even after the events of last week, the GOP is still the party of Trump, at least as of today. I'm not the first person to make this point, Jill, but the most baffling thing to me after all this is just all President Trump had to do after November 3rd was just accept the result of the election, go quietly, play golf in his remaining days. He would have left office with a decent approval rating, all things considered, especially despite the coronavirus. He would have become a Republican kingmaker. He would have left open the possibility of running for office again. All of this was just so avoidable. It just keeps coming back to me that.
And we've mentioned this before, but imagine that not only did he accept the results, but that he pushed the vaccine, right? And he pushed the federal government to get more involved with the vaccine distribution, that he actively encouraged people to get it, that he put a lot of pressure on governors to make sure that their systems were in place and that things went smoothly. I think he would have left office on a high note, actually,
Yeah.
because the vaccine rollout would have been going better. So yeah, I mean, you could think about where we'd be had he just accepted the results of the election. Look, there's a lot of postmortem here, in terms of what
Hmm.
went wrong. How did this allow to happen, right? What role does the media, especially right-wing media, play in this, in
Hmm.
providing kind of an echo chamber for the president? Because that's where he gets so much of his information,
Right.
to kind of think that it was okay to be questioning the results and that there really was a path forward. I mean, it was clear for most people after a couple of recounts in certain states that this thing, it was done, right? That there was no path forward, but he just kind of
Right.
like kept on that. Did you watch any of the impeachment yesterday?
I did. I think. I mean, I shouldn't say this, but there are members of Congress that would not be hired to do, and they wouldn't get hired at a cafe. They appear to be so out of touch with reality. It's like I don't. It's amazing to me that they're elected. That one woman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the new QAnon conspiracy theorist in Congress, she was standing up at the podium in the House of Representatives with a mask on that said "censored," talking on national television about how she's being censored. It's like, what planet are you on, lady?
Look, the Republicans who may not be defending Trump's actions, the one argument that they have is that the process is rushed, which I mean it is, by that they're not really giving him like a real trial and looking at evidence,
Hmm.
etc. Impeachment is quite serious, but I have to say the fact that it was moving so quickly, I was like,
Yeah.
this is TV I could watch. It was
it
like
was it
just
was
quick.
much more watchable than the last time they did it. Yeah, that's for sure.
But Washington, D.C. virtually locked down right now ahead of next week's inauguration. National Guard troops have been streaming into the city, sleeping on the marble floors of the Capitol amid reported intelligence that IEDs could be used to target the building around the inauguration. I'm sure you guys have seen the pictures out there. They're pretty incredible. Also, Airbnb and Hotel Tonight have canceled all short-term rentals in the D.C. area for next week. Facebook has reportedly seen a spike in activity indicating potential acts of violence on or around the inaugural, in cities across the country, as the FBI has warned that last week's siege could be a, quote, significant driver of violence.
Those photos that you mentioned, astounding, right? The guys just sleeping in the rotunda with their, rifles next to them. Very surreal, very, very surreal. By the way, National Guard troops, from my understanding, they're not usually armed. Like when you see them in Grand Central in New York or like walking around Times Square, they're not carrying guns, or they're at least not carrying automatic, weapons. So I think the fact that these guys are carrying their M14s tells you that this is, these threats are no joke. I am very nervous about next week. I have to say, I'll be very happy when it is this time next week, and we're, we have at least gotten through the inauguration. It's becoming more clear that these folks in the Capitol last week, at least some of them, had done some real advanced planning, and there are real questions today about whether they were members of Congress. I can't even believe I'm saying this, but who had helped them, in some cases potentially giving them tours of the Capitol ahead of January 6th. So we got to find out all of this stuff, and I'm sure that we will. But I'm still very shocked at how few resignations there have been, just given the magnitude of the security failure here. And Jill, just one other thing. I think I've been saying in the last couple of days, like, why is Biden doing the inauguration like it should be virtual? I'm going to take that back because, imagine if Al Qaeda had, God forbid, attacked the Capitol last week. We would be saying, no, the inauguration should go on. It should, you don't bow down to terrorists, right? And, you know, it's the same deal here, right? He should absolutely go out on those stairs next week, and he should put his hand on the Bible, become sworn in, and obviously there's not going to be anybody there because of the pandemic anyway. But I no longer think that he should be doing it from some sort of basement room in the Capitol or something. I think that he should go out there, as he is going to do, and show people that this is the part of the process, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? And in terms of just how divided we are as a country, it's almost cliche to say it, but as we talk about the president's actions post-election, even if it's so late in the game, but imagine even now he came out. Not only is he denouncing the violence, to your point, to perhaps just be talking to Mitch McConnell
Yeah.
and persuading him to not move forward with the impeachment. But imagine he just came out and said, guys, like, you know what? It was Joe Biden. Imagine he uttered the name Joe Biden, right?
Yeah, right.
He's left the name Joe Biden and Kamala Harris out of any of his speeches. Imagine he said, what every other president has said, let's give this guy or gal, let's give them a chance, right? We're rooting for them. The country, exactly
Especially
what
now.
President Obama said, what Hillary Clinton said. I'm rooting for you. I want
what
you to
George W.
succeed.
Bush said. Yeah, what they've all said. Because again, right, especially now. I mean, Joe Biden, God bless him, man. The guy is coming in at possibly, is there a worse time? I mean, I thought it was bad when Obama came in, amid the financial crisis in '08. But now you've got now you've got an economic crisis, you've got a pandemic, you've got this like insane far right violence swelling. I mean, man, the guy has got his plate full.
Okay, some good vaccine news to get to. Preliminary data from Johnson & Johnson shows that its coronavirus vaccine is safe and generates a good immune response in both young and old patients. The J&J vaccine, crucial to get into the global supply because it's just one shot and it only needs to be refrigerated rather than kept at those super, super low temperatures. Approval could come next month.
Yeah, very good news here. However, not to rain on the parade, the problem here is going to be one of supply. Johnson & Johnson, they have said publicly they're very behind in manufacturing. They told the Operation Warp Speed folks that it's going to take a couple of months to get them where they thought they would be at the onset once they get approval. So, not a reason to jump off a cliff, but it's we're going to continue to see these sort of fits and starts, right? 2 step forwards, 1 step back. Still, this is good.
Meanwhile, President-elect Biden will announce details of his administration's plan to speed up the vaccine rollout today. So it is now a race against time. Researchers in Ohio have identified 2 new highly infectious variants of the coronavirus, similar to the strain in the UK. Only their thoughts have originated here in the US. One of them is now the dominant strain in Columbus. So that's what starts to happen, right? The more effective strain, right? The mutation that makes it the most easily transmittable eventually becomes the dominant strain. It happened in the UK. Looks like it's going to happen here too, of course, because that's how viruses work. What I want to know is, we learn, and no one seems to be able to answer this, but what does that mean when we say it's more contagious? I get that it's more contagious, but in terms of what we're doing, does that mean we need to change any of it, right? Like, so we kind of stopped worrying about washing off our groceries, right? And we stopped worrying about, okay, we still wash our hands, but we're less concerned about getting this virus from something that we touch, and we're more concerned about it being airborne. What does this mean? Does this mean maybe we do need to start wiping down our groceries? And, I'd like some practical information. And
yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, or are 2 masks more useful than 1 if it's super contagious? I don't know the answer to that. Those are great questions.
Like, is it not 6 feet? Is it 12 feet? I mean, I already operate that it's not 6 feet. I'm like kind of assuming it's not, but is it 5 minutes of exposure versus 15 minutes? I just kind of want some practical info, and that's not out there yet.
No, that's very important stuff. We are starting to finally at least see what I think you and I called for a couple of weeks ago, which is like stadiums and arenas are now turning into mass vaccinations. See, I can't talk with this thing in my mouth. Have you Can you notice this? This is like, oh my God, mass vaccination
You're back
sites.
in high school.
Yeah, really, I swear. Oh, going to the orthodontist like I'm 13. What was I saying? Okay, Yankee Stadium and Citi Field in New York, they're turning into vaccination sites. Dodger and the Padre Stadium in Southern California, State Farm Stadium where the Cardinals play in Arizona. Arizona now, by the way, leading the country in cases and hospitalizations. And we're also just contemporaneously, at least I am, starting to hear about. Oh, this is going to be tough for somebody who needs to talk a lot. This is I didn't really think about how hard this is going to be. We're also starting to hear about people we know.
Letting the vanity get in the way of practical decisions, Carlo.
Oh God. But I was going to ask you, Jill. I'm starting to hear about people I know getting vaccinated. Like this orthodontist who tortured me yesterday. He got vaccinated. I'm starting to hear about my friends in essential services getting their shots, their parents. So again, good news, right? It's starting to happen here.
Yes, my parents were able to get an appointment,
Oh, they
so
were.
that's
That's
good.
great.
Yeah, they're gonna be vaccinated, knock on wood, hopefully next week. I know
Nice.
other people whose teachers of my daughters who have appointments for a week from now. And I know some teachers who've already been vaccinated. I know healthcare workers who've already been vaccinated. Weirdly, we had an appointment with my daughter's allergist who is at Mount Sinai in Manhattan, and she said that they haven't been vaccinated yet. So I was sort of surprised by that. I thought for sure they would be vaccinated already. So, but
Yeah,
she said they're scheduled, so that it's coming up. Um, but yeah,
that's
I
great.
mean, I'm seeing more and more pictures on social media of people that I know um, being with I've been vaccinated or whatever,
Right.
the picture of them actually getting the vaccination. So that's all good. So hopefully the end is of this thing is close, but it's still a long way to
Getting
go.
close anyway.
Switching gears
Yep.
now. The tech IPO rush still going strong in the new year. Affirm, the buy now, pay later service that has partnerships with many popular e-commerce retailers, soared in its market debut on the NASDAQ yesterday. The stock had priced at $49 per share, started trading at $91 before closing its first day, up nearly 100%. Affirm's stated goals to become a viable alternative to credit cards. The gaming company Roblox, Petco, Poshmark, Instacart among the next big IPOs expected in the coming weeks.
A quick programming alert here. Cheddar has the CEOs of Petco and the co-founder of Poshmark on today in the 3 p.m. Eastern hour. If you want to check those interviews out, those should be good. Affirm makes money from merchant fees. They don't charge interest because I was wondering. I had seen this company, right? Anytime you buy something, there's the little like Affirm logo next to it that gives you the option to buy now and pay later. So I had wondered how they made money. There's my answer. But I never really understood why you would do this rather than just put something on your credit card. But I guess again, if there's no interest, there's my answer.
Meanwhile, the NBA season not off to a good start. The league is tightening its COVID protocols amid a growing number of positive tests that caused 5 games to be postponed just this week. Players and staff now have to spend at least the next 2 weeks at home, with exceptions made for playing, practicing, and essential activities. When on the road, they can't leave the hotel or interact with other hotel guests. So I guess this is what happens when you don't do a bubble, right?
I mean, how many times are we going to learn this lesson, right? If it ain't under a bubble, there's going to be infections, and it's going to mess up the season. George Hill of the Oklahoma City Thunder, he got some heat yesterday for saying that these rules don't make any sense. He basically was like, I'm a grown man. I'm going to see who I want to see, and if the situation is that dangerous, maybe we shouldn't be playing. And I have to say, he's not wrong. Right? These guys are under a lot of pressure with these rules. While we're talking about the NBA, just quickly, we got to mention this. The Houston Rockets trading superstar James Harden to the Brooklyn Nets. This is probably one of the biggest blockbuster deals in the last couple of years, at least, involving a number of draft picks and swaps. The bottom line, 3 of the best offensive players in the NBA, Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, will now play down the street from me here in Brooklyn. Big development here, Jill, for my plans to become a Nets fan this year.
One thing that struck me though, as I was reading the copy, that players and staff now have to spend the next 2 weeks at home, with exceptions made for playing, practicing, and essential activities. Okay, isn't that what everyone's just doing? Like, what else are they doing? Right? I mean,
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't leave the house except for really essential activities at this point. I don't know. I mean, you people aren't, at least I don't, is that such a sacrifice? What else
No, no,
does
no.
that need
Yeah.
to be said at this point? I mean, isn't that what we're all kind
Right.
of doing
Right.
right now? Or am I living in this weird bubble myself where that's not the thing, right? Like, I mean, I guess there's a reason this virus is out of control, but I don't really leave my house. First of all, I don't actually leave my house, which is maybe a problem. I haven't been outside in a couple days, but like, if I did, it would
No,
be
I know what you
for an
mean.
essential
Yeah.
service. It would be for something essential. It wouldn't be to go to a
Yeah.
party. I don't know. We're
No, I mean, look, they're
9, 10 months into
NBA players,
this
right?
thing.
Yeah, they think they got to be able to go to parties and clubs and God knows what else, right?
And finally, it's almost Girl Scout cookie season because of the pandemic. The Girl Scouts of America are partnering with Grubhub this year to offer Samoa's Thin Mints trefoil. What is that one?
Trefoils, right? Trefoils? I don't know.
Trefoils. Trefoils. Okay, I'm being correct. Michelle is in my ear. I feel like everyone's like, "Oh, Jill, get out of your bubble." Okay. And it's going to all be available via contactless delivery or pickup starting February 1st. Grubhub is going to waive the fees for the organization, and the future entrepreneurs and business leaders will, quote, get hands-on experience in managing e-commerce. So they'll be tracking and fulfilling orders, all according to the Girl Scouts.
Ooh,
Cool.
dangerous. Very
Yeah,
dangerous.
and dangerous.
I don't need these things. I don't need Samoas a click away, right? So it's okay when you get like one box, but yeah, very dangerous. But cool, very cool. And I'm glad that Grubhub's waiving these fees because these fees are out of control, and then frankly, they should be waiving them for restaurants too.
The interesting thing, I mean, when I think of office life, the one thing that I always think of with Girl Scout cookies is like there's one mom or
Oh
dad
yeah,
coming around with the sheet, saying,
yeah,
"My
yeah.
daughter, can you buy some?" And you always do because A, you want them, and B, you want to support your colleague.
Right.
So,
Is that
we
gonna be
don't have
you?
that. And then you wait for them to come and deliver your order.
Right.
And it's the best, right? Everyone's like has their Girl Scout cookies at their desks. So clearly not
Fly through
happening this
those
year.
boxes. Ooh, man, those Samoas are so deadly. Or wait, hold on, quickly. Is Alex going to become a Girl Scout? Is it
I
too
was
early?
not a Girl Scout, so I don't
No,
know. We'll see. She's into like cars. She's into her own thing
she's a
these days.
tomboy. I
So
love it.
whatever she
She
wants
would
to
look
do.
awfully. She would look awfully cute in that little sash and hat. But
All right. That is what you need to know for Thursday, January 14th.
all right, guys. See you mañana.